Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the third of 5 short-term rental community meetings for the city of Temecula. Just a reminder, we do have snacks, beverages up front. I do want to make sure everyone stays hydrated. It is a little warm in here. There's restrooms in the back. As a reminder, we will be recording this meeting, and it will be placed on YouTube at the end. So if you want to capture anything that you may want to look at again in the future, we have that available. First of all, my name is Brandon Rabideau, and I'm a planner at the city of Temecula. We've got some additional staff here throughout the room that'll be assisting us this evening. We've got Lynn in the back who will be helping with the microphones, and we got Matt up front who will be helping with time when we get to that portion of the meeting. So why are we here? We're here to do an overview of short-term rentals in the city of Temecula. We're going to do a little bit of education on it, although there's a lot of familiar faces, so you've heard this speech a few times, so I apologize if it's repetitive, but we've got to go over that to make sure anybody that hasn't heard it before gets that information. Additionally, we're looking for feedback tonight. So this is feedback from you to the city saying, how do we want short-term rentals to look like in the future? Do we want them? Do we not want them? Do we want somewhere in between? We haven't written one word of regulations for this, as a part of these meetings. So we want your feedback tonight. Additionally, at the end of the meeting, we are going to have a survey. So that survey is online and available to everyone else in the community, but it's going to be available for you to take that survey tonight as well. So those are kind of the major portions of our presentation tonight. I talked a little bit about why we're here, just a little bit about our process. So you understand, what is the city's process on when we're looking at changing regulations, whatever they may end up being. The first step is we do data collection and survey. We have to get our information on what our community wants. We don't sit in a room and say, hey, this is what the community wants, okay? That's why we're here tonight, and that's why we'll be having additional community meetings, and that's why we'll also be having public hearings on these topics in the future. Second part is once we get all that feedback, we start to develop policies based on that feedback. So you being here is the first step in that, and we take all this information, we analyze it and say, this is what we're hearing from our community. Then we take that to decision makers. What does a timeline look like? Now I'm going to put a little asterisk up here. Our timeline is always flexible, and the reason is things change. We get more information. We need to do more analysis. But as of right now, we are having our meetings and survey during the summer. We'll be going into subcommittee meetings. What a subcommittee meeting is we hold that with our planning commission and our city council, and we reach out to 2 members of those groups, and we just start to discuss some of the feedback that we heard, and they can give us a little bit of feedback on policy guidance. Third part is a summary report and presentation. So we're going to take these to a formal hearing. That would be a publicly noticed hearing before the Planning Commission and the City Council. So again, yet another opportunity for you to come out and discuss what's happening once you see whatever policies may be recommended at that point. Phase 2, policy development. Again, we'll evaluate the resources and costs associated with that. When we talk about costs, I just want to clarify that for some of the past meetings, what the city does is if we implement a policy, we need to understand what it costs. Whether if we implement something that would allow short-term rentals, that would require some type of permit. Or if we didn't implement something, we may need to get additional resources in order to enforce regulations. What are short-term rentals? Short-term rentals are essentially any type of unit that's leased for under 30 days. So it could be a casita, it could be a whole house, it could be a mother-in-law flat, it could be a room in a house. There's a lot of variations, but essentially anything that is rented under 30 days. Anything over 30 days, someone becomes a tenant, and tenant rights kick in. So that's why it's the under 30-day mark. What do Airbnb, VRBO, and these other platforms do? Well, they create a marketplace for these things, and it's a new marketplace that is literally accessible right on your phone in front of you. So that's what's different about short-term rentals and why they're becoming so prevalent in the community. There's not just one. The most well-known is Airbnb, but there's actually many, many other sites. Here's an example of those different sites. So we've got tripping.com, VRBO, HomeAway, and more. So just an example of the different apps, websites, and resources available for those looking for short-term rentals in the community. For those not familiar, this is what an example listing looks like. So you search it in Temecula and you say, I want to check in and check out, just like you would a hotel. On that listing, you'll have a map with prices, pictures, how many people can stay at the facility, what type of amenities are there. So it's essentially a listing of all that information available to anyone on the web. little bit of market context. What's going on with this? Why is this all of a sudden becoming a more prevalent issue? Well, the first part is it's grown about 800% since 2011. So you have a new industry that's part of the sharing economy, and it has exploded. But with that, there's also market fragmentation. So there's not one entity that the city could go to and regulate this with. So we can't just go to Airbnb and say, hey, you can't do this or you can do this. We have to reach out to multiple entities. So it's quite complicated in that regards. And as we mentioned, in Temecula, these websites have turned short-term rentals into a booming, unregulated economy that we have here. So how many short-term rentals do we have in the community thus far? Our estimates predict between 300 to 500 short-term rentals in the community. That number fluctuates with the season, summers and fall, with weddings obviously it increases, and holidays. So these things all fluctuate, but that is our best guess estimate at this time. Why? Well, we've got a tourism economy. We have weddings, a casino. We have Old Town Temecula, a lot of vibrant things that people are wanting to come see and play and visit. This is a sample map of the short-term rental listings in Temecula. This map was a capture from June 2017. And what we did is we essentially started to look at how many rentals were there and what type of makeup were those rentals. So we've got anything from a casita to a whole house to maybe just a room. We're just trying to clarify and start to figure out, well, what's really going on out there. I see someone taking pictures in the back. We will have the presentation online afterwards, just to let you know. What are we hearing about short-term rentals? Well, the first part, we're hearing some negative things about short-term rentals. We're hearing that there's some trash issues. We're hearing noise issues. We're hearing public safety issues. We're hearing traffic and parking issues associated with short-term rentals. We hear you, and we're looking for that type of feedback tonight to know what's going on in your neighborhood and our community. What are the positive things we're hearing about short-term rentals? Again, we're hearing that we've got 1.2 million visitors coming into the Temecula Valley, and they need a place to stay. We're hearing that tourism revenue from businesses from small to large is becoming more dependent on these alternative accommodations. A family of maybe 6 may not be able to get a hotel room that could accommodate everyone, but a house may be able to. So you have a change in how people and consumers are looking to stay within our community. And finally, you have supplemental income for some people. They've got an extra room, the kids moved out of the house, went off to college, they don't visit as often as they used to, and they rent out the room to someone. So again, supplemental income for people. How do we currently regulate short-term rentals? Well, probably before I was born, short-term rentals were not on anybody's radar in the community in terms of the measure that Airbnb is right now, right? So these regulations basically state they're prohibited. You cannot have a short-term rental in Temecula. At this time, though, even with that prohibition, we do not have the necessary regulatory tools or resources in order to enforce that ordinance. We do not have the tools. We don't have a list of things that you cannot do or the consequences that you have that are severe enough to deal with the short-term rentals. And many times, the short-term rentals, the time that it takes to respond to an issue, we can't respond quickly enough. So we have a lot of issues in terms of our regulations and resources in addressing short-term rentals. There is one caveat. We do allow for a bed and breakfast with a conditional use permit. That conditional use permit is a public hearing process, costs about $3,800, and someone has to go through this entire meeting. We notice to all the neighbors, and you have to have a 60,000 square foot lot. So that is a pretty high bar for a bed and breakfast, and we do not have many that are permitted in the city currently. So how do we respond to complaints? Again, I mentioned earlier that we respond with we have a regulation that prohibits it, but currently we respond with our code enforcement department. They come out on a case-by-case basis, and those complaints are generated by residents. The city doesn't actively go search for short-term rentals on the weekends. So we hear a complaint, we come out, but a lot of times the noise is gone when we come out the next morning or on the Monday, or the trash is gone, or any of the consequences of that short-term rental are gone before our team is able to address them. We didn't anticipate the sharing economy when we wrote these regulations. We didn't know that short-term rentals would become a huge issue in our community. Many beach communities have been dealing with it for decades. We have not. So this is a new issue in the city of Temecula. And our code just does not address it. What about HOAs? We want to address the issue about HOAs. We get a lot of questions about that. HOAs have an ability to regulate short-term rentals on their own. They don't need the city to write a regulation for that. They can regulate anything from paint colors, landscaping, pets, etc., and they can also regulate short-term rentals. This is the part we like to explain where we say the city can always be more restrictive than a HOA, right? We can say you can't have short-term rentals, and an HOA cannot then come in and say you can have short-term rentals, all right? But the HOA could come in and we could say, yes, you may have short-term rentals, and then this HOA could say, no, you cannot. So that's kind of how it works from the city to HOA relationship is this HOA cannot invalidate what the city does, but they can be more restrictive if they want to. For instance, city does not require every house to be red. If the HOA wanted to say every house in the community has to be red, they could do that. And finally, the city does not enforce CC&Rs. What about other cities? Well, if you've been watching the news and reading online, there is no one-size-fits-all policy throughout the nation and especially in California. We've seen anywhere from San Francisco to San Diego completely different regulations, different permitting processing, no processing. There's a wide variation of things going on with short-term rentals in the nation. What's most important is these regulations are tailored to each community, and that's why we're here tonight, is to start that process of tailoring regulations or no regulations or whatever may be in between for our community. So how are we doing that? Well, we've got a city website. It's temeculaca.gov/Temecula Rentals. We also have 5 community meetings, which you're at one of them, and we have 2 additional community meetings at Vintage Hills Elementary and Rancho Elementary. And we also have been reaching out on social media and sending out our survey to different groups in the community to get them to take that survey so we can find out what they really think about the topic. I do want to put this slide up just to remind you, we do have a survey after the community meeting, so please do not leave until you've taken that survey. It's really important because it's another data gathering tool for us. It's anonymous, and we'll go through kind of the survey information at the end, but please do not leave after the community comment portion of this meeting. With that, we're going to start our public feedback portion. So this is your opportunity to tell the city what you think about short-term rentals, problems, solutions, and ideas on regulating the topic as we move forward. We're going to ask that you please fill out a speaker slip that Lynn has in her hand right here. It's a little white speaker slip. You do need to fill that out before you speak or you will not be called up. We do ask that you please be respectful and understand that everybody comes from a different dinner table. Be respectful in your interactions. We're going to give you 3 minutes. So we want to give everyone 3 minutes, so we will cut you off. We'll do it as politely and nice as we can, but we will cut you off at 3 minutes. If for some reason you do not get something communicated to us in that 3 minutes, you can always email us and contact us and put it in writing. We will be happy to take your feedback. So please don't think that we want to cut you off, but we want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to speak tonight. Finally, we are recording this meeting, and it really helps us and also gives us a good visual survey of what people are thinking. If you support something that's said or someone that's saying something, feel free to give a thumbs up. If you don't support it, feel free to give a thumbs down. That's how we're going to be able to collect some of the information as we're seeing the different topics discussed, and we're still able to record the audio and get what that person is saying. So we ask that of you. And with that, we're going to start our public feedback portion. Did everybody get an opportunity to fill out a speaker slip? Okay, with that, Lynn?
Thank you, Brandon. I just want to reiterate what Brandon said. This will not be the only opportunity to provide feedback if you're not comfortable speaking. Tonight, please feel free to email us, take the survey, but we want to hear your feedback. Right now, I only have 4 speaker slips, so if you change your mind, I know there are a few people on the fence, please fill out one of the speaker slips and hand it to me. And as always, I apologize if I butcher your name. First up, we have Brad Sullivan. Here, I'll hand that.
Hello, I'm president of Wolf Creek HOA, which is the community that the school is in here, 1,806 homes. And as an HOA, we oppose short-term rentals. It's not allowed in our documents, but unfortunately, we do have party planners and others that come in from the outside where we don't have any control and would really appreciate regulation from the city that they could go after those people criminally. It really impacts the quality of life for our residents because even people that are here that try to be respectful, they tend to come in much later and much louder because they're celebrating all the things to do, and they disturb the neighbors, and then we get complaints. They also, we had a series for a while where we were having experience of parties of 400 to 500 people coming in, and they would stay till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. There was only so much the police could do, and you know, if people stay and persist, a one-person car isn't going to be able to get 500 people out. So we'd really ask that you come up with some sort of regulation. And just also to clarify then, as an association, we can't take a political stance, but this isn't a regulatory meeting, it's a community outreach, and thus we're permitted to speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just a reminder too, there are refreshments over by the door. I know it's warm in here, so thank you. Hopefully the air will kick in soon, but help yourselves. Next up, we have Fernando Tamayo. Okay.
If you change your mind.
Okay. Next up, we have Gilbert Garibay.
I live here in Temecula. I've been here over 10 years. I moved into a nice, quiet community, nice neighborhood. Half the neighborhood people rent, nice families. About a year ago, the house next door sells. And it's just been hectic. You know, I understand it's about money. It's about people trying to make money. But not on my back, not in my backyard. It's just BS. And nobody's doing anything about it. They come up here and say, oh, we're helping the community. My neighborhood didn't need no help. You know, I don't live in a slump. You know, if it's a thorn, it's my thorn. Nobody else's. My neighborhood's thorn. Now, I come up home last night. There's 7 cars, you know, small driveway, 1 car blocking the damn sidewalk. So what makes that look like, excuse my language, like crap, right? I don't live in the ghetto, but now it looks like I do. 7 damn cars in one house. You know what I mean? What are we going to do about it? This is a cancer. If you guys don't stop it, it's going to continue. And then you're not going to be able to stop it. Just because I don't live in an HOA doesn't make it that everybody else is better than me. And I should deal with this stuff. You know what I mean? Half the owners don't even live here in Temecula. So how can you come into my neighborhood and say, we're going to do this if you like it or not? You know? Come on. Let's get real here. This is a small, it's not a huge city like San Diego, LA, San Francisco. Let's keep it that way. Let's keep it what it was. Why are we going to allow this to happen? It's just going to get worse. It's not going to get better. If you guys ain't regulating now, you're not going to regulate later. No matter what rules you put up. I'm nervous because this really ticks me off. It pisses me off this whole last year. You know?
Next up, we have Stephanie Dominguez.
Hi, good evening. I am a homeowner, and I also own a rental home in the community. I'm also a school teacher. My husband and I moved here 17 years ago from a very nice area in the Los Angeles area in the San Fernando Valley. We sacrificed everything to move to this area. We left all of our family and friends to move to this area to raise our children in a nice community. We could rent our rental home to an Airbnb and make much more money. We don't want that. We want a family community for our children and for the community. It's not about money. It's about keeping this what it should be. And in our own neighborhood, there was an Airbnb, and it was complete chaos. Thank God we had the regulations and that we could shut it down. But I know it will be a cancer, as that gentleman said, for this whole town. That's what we have hotels for, so that security can be called, people can be walking around, checking out what's going on. We need to stay on top of this. What kind of town do we want to live in? Pure resort and chaos? Or do we want a real community? What do we want here, people? Want to keep the schools nice, like I teach in Murrieta Valley High, or we want it to have go down, down, down? We got to really think about this. Thank you.
Next, we have Doris Luth. No worries.
It's on. Thank you. Okay, we've lived in Temecula since 1989, and we don't have an HOA, and until now, we didn't think we needed one, but from the stories we hear. But even some of the HOAs don't seem to be able to take care of the business. Okay, we've heard the horror stories from people living next to these short-term rentals, where the people party 7 days a week, the cars are blocking the streets, their parents are afraid to let their kids go outside and play because they don't know who's next door. Even if you have a long-term rental, usually you kind of know who's living there, but when people are coming and going, you don't really know what people are renting it. And my personal belief that sometimes the short-term rental people, they have a different mentality, and they have no motivation to be respectful to the neighbors because basically they're on vacation. Why should they be? It's just like if you go to a hotel and you might be trying to sleep at 1 o'clock in the morning, but people are coming down the hall, slamming doors and everything. They're not respectful of the other people there. Okay, and Airbnb says that they have strict regulations against parties and noise, and that they should either be called, the owners, or the police called. But sometimes that it's not always true because I've been speaking with someone personally, and she said she has the owner's phone number, but he knows it's her calling, so he won't answer. And then when you call the police, they have limited resources, so they're not going to be able to show up in a timely manner. And if you've called, you have to remain up until they come. And that could be 2, 3 in the morning when you have to commute to San Diego or your kids have been woken up, whatever reason. Okay, we urge the city of Temecula to protect the full-time residents, over 100,000 of them, from the 300 to 500 short-term rentals that are profiting at the expense of our peaceful way of life. It really comes down to whether the city is looking out for its citizens, and we elected those officials, from outside investors who are setting up party hotels in our neighborhoods.
Next, we have Jeff Vogel.
Hi, my name is Jeff Vagley. I'm a resident here in Wolf Creek. I moved up here with my family 2011. We moved up here for the exact reasons that this young lady expressed here earlier. I want to reiterate what everybody has stood up and said so far. This is a horribly bad idea. I'm here to tell you I lived right next to one of the houses here in Wolf Creek that Brad had to deal with. 3-story home, rented by the owner, rented out, and I'm sorry if this sounds bad, but had a party that looked like it came from Compton, from about 40 to 60 individuals, up till 3 a.m. in the morning, loud as can be, cul-de-sac filled with cars, F-bombs being screamed all hours of the night. And then to top it off, 9 strippers come walking down to this residence at 9 p.m. that night, okay? So that tells you what goes on. If Airbnb or any of these other organizations are telling you they're regulating it, it's a joke. It's not happening. We have a gem here in Temecula. That's one of the reasons why we moved up here. And everybody in this city, as well as the people that run this city, need to stop this. This is a bad idea, bringing this into this community.
Next, we have Nira.
Hi, I'm Niru. I'm a property manager. I manage regular rentals and also Airbnbs. So I wanted to kind of give my side of it and kind of let you know how I manage my properties. So what kind of people come to our properties? I always ask them questions. Why are they here? What are the reasons? And we get all kinds of people. We get people that are families that are visiting other families in the area, and they can't go to a hotel, and they want to have a kitchen, and they're going to be here for a week. We get those. We get people that have termites in their homes, and So they need a place to stay for 3 or 4 days, and they want to be able to, they have kids, they have a dog, they want to be comfortable. We have people that have had a water flood or some other fire, and they need a place to stay, and they can't stay in a hotel. So it's not always just the party people that rent Airbnbs. There are people that come for parties, and it's up to the manager to control those people. I don't allow more than 10. I have a strict rule of 10 o'clock curfew. I give my number to every single neighbor, and they have walked through the house. They know my number. I pick up my phone no matter what time it is. I've only had one after hours call, and it was at 10:01. And I started calling them. I didn't get a call back from them in 15 minutes. I started driving over there at 10 o'clock. I was in bed. I got up, changed my clothes, and was headed over there when all of a sudden I saw somebody go through a doorbell ring that I have installed so I know how many people are coming through the house. And I called them on that, hey, you need to call me and shut it down. And they did. And I didn't hear back from that neighbor. But if there's something going on, a special thing, like we had a wedding at one of them, I told the neighbors ahead of time, hey, there's going to be a wedding. You might see extra cars. Just want to give you a heads up. If there's any problems, call me. I'm there. So that's what I do on mine. And that's what I think we need is strict policies to be observed by the management companies so that they can take care of those. Because you do have nice people that stay at these Airbnbs. It's not always bad. As far as I've had tenants that are bad. I've had tenants with barking dogs, breaking fences because of the dogs. I've had to call animal control because of it. So you have both sides. I've had one house where they rented out every single room to a different person, and we had to evict them, and they had animals in there and had to repair everything. I just went down the street from our neighbor, and she rented out her house to her tenant. And I walked in there, and it reeked. They were actually raising dogs inside the house, and they were using each bedroom as a pen. That place smelled like crazy. And it took her 3 months to evict them. It's crazy. And you could have somebody like that living next to you where the weekenders just go away the next day. They're gone. But if you have one of those, I mean, it's if you have good
I'm going to ask you to wrap up your. I'm going to ask you to wrap up your comments, please.
Okay, sorry. Also, I invite my neighbors, if they have family visiting and they need extra space, they're more than welcome to use the house at a discount. So we do offer that also. So there's a lot of things that can be done to help out and work with the neighbors. And I have like an open communication with them, and I have not had a problem. So.
So I only have a couple more slips. So again, just a reminder, if you would like to speak today, please fill out a speaker slip over here on the table and hand it to me when you have a chance. Next up, we have Andrew Georgitsits.
Hi, my name is Andrew Georgitsits. I live here in Temecula and also manage properties like Nehu. And to be honest with you guys, it was a huge learning curve, and that's, I think, is what's really important, because it's a new sharing economy, and because there are a lot of people who jump in to it thinking they're going to make some money. It took a little while to really understand and learn that, initially you start out with the best of intentions, and you find out that, you know what, you've got to start putting some rules in. So we started putting some rules in, and then started putting some more rules in. Then I started contacting other Airbnb owners and started saying, hey, you know what, let's get together and share. The idea of regulating ourselves, being a self-regulating community, because there is no city rules, there is no things happening in the community, so why don't we start self-regulating? And so we started getting together in an organization called Short-Term Rental Alliance of Temecula, and you can look us up on the web, it's STRA-Temecula.com. And we started putting in policies, and we started saying, look, this is the parking policy, only 3 cars on the driveway, 1 in front of the house, and the rest have to be off-site. And noise policies and so forth. The point I wanted to make to the city is that we want to start working with the city to make the policies, because the policies will bring the control that's needed to the short-term rental. And we see this in the county of Riverside. Last week we saw a speaker who came in and said the county's part of putting in all these rules and really started helping out with short-term rental in a positive manner to the community rather than a free-for-all. So I'm in favor of policies with the government. I'm in favor of paying the taxes for the government. And I'm certainly in favor of the fact that we can work together to create a level playing field so that we don't have the party people coming down. They know they can't party. We even can self-regulate ourselves or have the city require that we have things like security firms driving around at 10 o'clock at night, which we pay for as Airbnb owners. We're willing to subscribe to those people to come and shut down parties at 10:01. You know, these are the kinds of things that we want to do to make sure that we work with the community, because 99% of my renters, 99% of them are good, solid citizens like yourself who are just looking for a family-style vacation, and they bring their families from London and from all over the world. I've had tourists come from every corner of the planet to enjoy what Temecula has to offer without disturbing the neighbors. And I think we as a community can open our hearts and say, welcome to our beautiful community, right? And in a way that we can share our community with these people. So this is, I think there's a lot to offer, but we have to regulate.
Thank you. Next, we have Jessica Abrego.
She's mine. Hey guys, my name is Jessica. I'm also an Airbnb owner, and I help manage some properties. Actually, I have an owner here that I help manage his property. And I just want to say, I'm a single mom, and so this has opened up so many doors for me that I can actually, I purchased a second home in San Diego because of this. And it's opened so many doors for my girls and I. They get to go to gymnastics. They get to do things like that. Also, I have different cleaners from around town that are all single moms that go to my church, and they go in to clean the homes. And I actually had one message me today, and I was just going to read it. It says, Jessica, I'm so glad you started doing this. You keep up the good work, You've been giving my daughter and I a lot, literally allowing us to live in our first home, and now I've enrolled in Palomar. I start next week to become a drug and alcohol counselor. Thank you. So, I'm nervous, but I understand the noise complaints, and I get it. I live in Temecula too, and I don't want my neighbors being loud either. And so I have a policy in my homes that any noise after 10 o'clock, there's a fee. And if I have to show up, there's an additional fee. And if the police have to show up, it's a $500 fee. Since then, I've had no complaints. The neighbors know, they have my number. I've set policies into place. So now that it's enough to fear, and Fernando can speak of it. It's in his home, and his neighbor has my number. And if there is ever an incident, he can call me. And since we put the complaints or the policy in the house, we haven't got a call. And we have cameras both inside, or both not inside, but on the front and the back of the house. If it pings my phone after 10, you bet I'm calling. But like I said, since we started that policy, we don't have to. So I do understand, though, that the loud noises. I get it. I live here. I have 2 little girls. They need to go to sleep too. So I feel you. I understand that aspect of it, but I just feel like if the city puts in regulations and policies in place, we can all live together. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Michelle Miller.
Hello. I live in Temecula Valley, and I am an Airbnb owner. And I also live in the same neighborhood, 6 doors down from my Airbnb that I've had for 3 years now. I'm totally in the minority here. I know that, but the thing that I oppose the most is a complete ban on this type of situation, because regulations are going to be much better, but to ban something, that's not the United States way. I don't think so anyway. But I'm sorry, I just found out about this meeting yesterday, so I'm a little bit out there, but I don't have people party at my house because I am 6 doors down. I like that idea with the the fines. Fortunately, I've never had to worry about that. Most of the people that come to my house are coming to weddings in the Temecula area. They have come to see family. I had a work crew from Arizona, 3 guys that were putting in ceilings and banks. I have a retired couple in Iowa that are coming later this year to visit their family that lives here in the area. So, but at the same time, no, I understand how this type of business could get out of control and how it sounds like it has in this area because of your proximity probably to a lot of resort type areas. So, so no, I know I'm not going to get any agreements with the people that are fed up here in their own neighborhoods because I would be too. But on a side note, truthfully, it keeps my property a lot nicer than having people in there living every single day. And most of the time, my Airbnb property is weekends. Most of the weekdays, there's nobody coming. So, but with you living so close to this area, I could see, and if investment companies are coming in and turning houses specifically into Airbnb properties, that's not right. I completely agree with that. But my opinion is there should not be a full-on ban. There should be some regulation for sure. Thank you.
We have one more speaker. So last chance to fill out a slip if you're interested. If you're not up to speaking tonight, we do have a survey, and we'll talk about that afterwards as well. But again, we want to hear your feedback. Our last speaker is Tammy Alvarado.
Okay, so I was going to say the same thing. You're currently not obeying the city code development laws, but yet you say you're following your own laws. That's not how society works here. You mentioned they get penalized. So you get rewarded with cash if your renters misbehave. Well, we don't. We get grief, we get stress, we get anxiety. You have a couple of bad experiences. Every time STR comes in, your stress level just shoots through the roof. Are they going to behave? Are they going to be out having parties? Are their dogs going to be loose? Are they going to have a party bus with 30 people loading in? Are they going to be up at 3 in the morning in the backyard using the pool? It doesn't just only happen to us when a negative renter comes in, a short-term renter. You mentioned that you kind of threaten them with monetary, to behave. Well, maybe we should do the same with the STRs. You guys aren't following the rules. You're not behaving. So why doesn't the city put in some harsh penalties, some harsh fines on you until they've made a decision on getting these codes put in? I've come to the fact that they're going to be allowed. It's too much of a money revenue for the city, and everybody has a right to make a living in a legal way that they choose fit, but it's not legal right now. And where I live, when these meetings started, I had one 2 doors away. Now I found out in my development there's 4. I have one 2 doors away, I have one 4 doors away, and I have one 5 doors away. 2 of them, the 2 door and the 5 door, he does not live here. He lives in another county 8 hours away. And I've had to call this week on all 3 of those with code violations. And if I want to do anything, we do have CCNRs, but we don't have an HOA. So there's nothing that can be done unless we decide to take them to civil court, which is going to cost me, out of my pocket, thousands of dollars to fight for somebody that's breaking the law. So that's it.
That was our last speaker. We appreciate all of your feedback. We will take it all into consideration. And just to reiterate what Brandon said before, we do not have a set direction that our policy is going in, but there is also a lot of other opportunities to provide feedback. Brandon, back to you.
With that, I want to thank everyone. I just want to apologize for the heat in the room right now. So thank you for being patient. I know it's warm, so please, just want to remind you one more time, please grab some water. I don't want anyone passing out. But I appreciate your patience tonight. All right, next steps. So after I go through this slide, we're going to be taking a survey, and that's, again, yet another opportunity for you to give feedback to the city. We have additional meetings. I'm going to just reiterating this stuff, but we want you to make sure you know you can be involved. So we'll have a planning commission meeting. We'll have a city council meeting. Those will be publicly noticed meetings. We may have additional meetings if we feel the need there's a need for additional meetings beyond that. So stay tuned to temeculaca.gov/Temecula Rentals for that updated information. We're going to jump into survey, but I do want to thank everyone again for their feedback tonight. I'm going to introduce Casey from HARC. She's one of our consultants on our team, and she'll go ahead and lead you in the survey.
Hello. So we've heard your comments today, but we also want to get more systematic feedback from you. We have some specific questions in the form of a survey. How many of you have already taken the short-term rental survey? Awesome. So we have some people. Thank you. So if you've taken it already, you don't have to take it again, but if you do want to take it, we'd love your feedback. There are 3 different ways to take the survey. First, you can pick up a paper copy up at the front here and then leave it with us or drop it off at the city hall. The second way, you can go to the Temecula website, and it's listed there on the short-term rental page. And then the third way is by going to slido.com, which you can all do right now, and I'll walk you through the steps. Does everyone have a phone here? If you have a phone, you can follow along with me, and I can guide you through how to take the survey. So you'll just go to slido.com on whatever you use to search the internet. So if you use Google or Safari, however you would Google something, go and type in your search bar www.slido.com. And then for the event code, you'll just type in TEM1. You should be able to just go right in and take the survey. Go through each of the questions and hit submit at the end, and it'll send in your survey. And I want to remind you again that all of your information is completely private. I will never track this back to you. It's completely anonymous. One of the first questions is what district do you live in? And we have a slide in addition to, no, we don't have paper handouts. We'll pull up a slide that'll show you what district you're in so you can identify the district. If anyone has any questions, I'll come around and help guide you through Slido, or you're free to leave at this time. Thank you again for attending. Pick up snacks as you go out, and thank you all so much.